On today's episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast, we play buy or sell. Are Mikal Bridges' problems his fault or Tom Thibodeau's? We get into that and so much more next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin, Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and of course, the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. And of course, you are Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. But if you're a real sicko and that's somehow not enough for you, well, join your fellow sickos by subscribing to the Locked On Knicks newsletter, introducing the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. It's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. You get ready from Alex and I, our team of national writers, and of course, Josh Lloyd, who will help you, again, for free win your fantasy basketball league with his tips and tricks. Alex, on today's show, we are playing buy or sell. We're going to talk if Mikal Bridges issues, more on him, more on Tom Thibodeau. Josh Hart shooting issues. Did PJ Tucker single-handedly solve them? And the real OG dominating these last 5 games, is that the guy we're going to get the rest of the season? And one on Mitchell Robinson that I'll keep for a surprise because I spoiled all of them. Let's start with this one. Alex Wolfe, buy or sell? Mikal Bridges, his issues this year are more on him or Tom Thibodeau / the roster construction?
I'm going to buy the overall idea that roster construction and Tibbs are adding to it. However, I'm going to sell that is the primary or the only reason, right? That Mikal is struggling. I think that not to go at this all like you got to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and just go to work, whatever. But like, ultimately, the guy is paid millions of dollars to play basketball. Whatever role he is thrust into, he should, in theory, be able to fill. I mean, he started his career sort of like Jalen Brunson, sort of like a lot of guys on this team, to be honest, like Brunson on Anunoby, maybe not Cat. Cat came in with all the expectations in the world as the number 1 pick, but like a lot of these guys kind of started as like lower level role players and then worked their way into the player that they are now. So from the perspective of expecting one thing and getting another, I guess I can sort of get with where Mikal was at and why it seems like his basketball mood seems to fluctuate. Even though, he's usually pretty stone-faced about it when he talks to the media or whatever, but like you can tell based on how he is on the court that it seems like he's just very passive sometimes, doesn't know what he's supposed to do. I think that to a degree though, like he should, in theory, be a little more assertive about getting stuff for himself. But that I also just mentioned, recently in an episode, like I just don't think that's who he is. I think that the Knicks need to really go out of their way to find opportunities for him and sort of force feed him like a fussy toddler. Be like, take these shots, buddy. Like just take it. Here comes the airplane, whatever. Like start making like little noises while they're like passing him the ball and hope that he shoots it. I don't know, but like, I guess I buy into Tibbs being part of the problem. I don't buy into that being all of it. I do think that like he should still try to be a little more aggressive with what opportunities he can scrape when he gets a chance, but they've certainly done him no favors in terms of actively trying to involve him in the offense. And for that reason, I will land more on the buy side of this one, that mostly Tibbs roster construction, things from inside the Knicks have been a big part of why he's kind of underwhelmed this year so far, up until the last few games.
Yeah, I'm going probably 55% buy, 45% sell. And that is a significant shift for me because I've been very vocally very hard on Mikal this year. And I think some of the things that have happened that I'll get into have been inexcusable and really can be placed pretty squarely on his shoulders. But it has just really lodged itself in my head how good he's looked these last 2 games now that he's actually getting used how he's supposed to. I've been referencing this tweet from Prez ad nauseum, so I promise I'll put it away after this episode, but I'm going to bring it up for those watching on YouTube one more time. Here's his usage this year. 29% of his attempts are spot up, 23% are in transition, 10% are on cuts, 9.5% pick and roll ball handler, 6% are handoffs, 5.4% off screen. As Prez puts it, he's being used more like Courtney Lee instead of a guy you traded 5 or 6. I try to forget the number every day. First round picks for Landry Shamet is the name I wrote down when I saw that usage distribution. And these last few games, tons of dribble handoffs, running him off screens, a couple of pick and roll reps per game, which incidentally is his most efficient play type on the season as a pick and roll ball handler, catching on the go with purpose. And really that is all this boils down to me, giving him the ball in situations where he already has momentum and not asking him to create from a standstill, because that is just not who he is as a player. And outside of a short stretch of really efficient play, doing that to some extent on Brooklyn, while they were also involving him more creative actions, that's really who he's never been as a player. And I think all of this is more good evidence that Jalen Brunson doesn't need to have the ball in his hands for nearly 9 minutes a game, which incidentally is more than any other player in the NBA. I think that's not great for Brunson at 6'2", 190, his long-term health, and it's just not good for the team. And that ultimately falls on Tom Thibodeau when you get this guy and your front office, clearly given the capital outlay for him, puts a substantial priority on him, like it's on you to involve him. And to your point, like fly that airplane in, baby, force feed the dude touches and shots and momentum. And I think Tibbs has failed in that. And it's on him to build an infrastructure that promotes involvement across the board. I do think some of the games like against the Thunder where he just doesn't shoot pretty much the whole night. His above the break 3-point shooting has been like inexplicably poor, 27th percentile in frequency, 16th percentile in accuracy. It's not Tibbs's fault that he's been allergic to contact. I just think there are a lot of ways he could have been helped. And he's looking pretty much how I expected him to look this entire season now that Jalen Brunson isn't there, and they kind of have to use him more creatively.
Yeah, and the contact thing, I almost wonder if that's sort of a vicious cycle where Tibbs doesn't respect him enough to call plays for him because he doesn't seek out contact and try to get to the free throw line, which is clearly like a core tenet of what this team does. I mean, this team plays like low key, like, I mean, they have the ability to hit mid-range shots if they have to, but they play pretty like Houston Rockets style ball, of like the late 2010s, like just you're either trying to get to the rim or you're trying to shoot a 3 for the most part, or at least get into floater range, and I feel like Mikal stops short of that a lot, and you could be the best mid-range shooter in the world and you're still not going to do better than shooting, 40% from 3 or 60% at the cup. And that's kind of the balance that he has to strike there of, if you're going to go for mid-rangers that often, you have to hit like 60% of them, which is crazy. I know sometimes it feels like he hits that, but he doesn't. So I wonder if maybe that's part of it. I also will say too, I mean, hopefully this little stretch of games, he's getting a little more responsibility on the ball, like to try to make up for Brunson being out. And, we saw it pay off with 8 assists in the last game. Also Anunoby with 8 assists, Deuce with 7 assists. Like, hopefully he starts getting the ball more, but hopefully, his teammates just kind of make more of an effort. Like, even if Tibbs isn't calling plays for him or whatever, to start trying to get him the ball. But it's also partly on him because it seems like sometimes he's almost just getting the cardio in, and it doesn't seem like he's, really looking for off-ball movement to try to create opportunities for himself. And that it's just kind of this song and dance where you have to kind of weigh like how much this is on him and how much of it is that just he's discouraged because of the game plan. And that's why he acts, like he looks disinterested on the court sometimes. But as a guy who this team has invested a lot in, like, I think he should at least be looking like he's giving it 110% all the time. And then hopefully the shots will fall in. So, or, just the opportunities will fall into place for him. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I land on the whole thing, but it's not totally on Tibbs. It's not totally on Mikal. It's certainly not totally on the teammates, but a little mix of everything. I just think we're starting to see where, the last couple of games, maybe things can start working a little better around him.
All right, so next we're going to get into, is PJ Tucker the world's greatest shooting coach / motivational speaker? We'll find out in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks.
But first, we got to let you know about our friends over at Skims. And when I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear fit, comfort, finding right style for me. Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I'll tell you what, I'm a convert. My favorite, I didn't think it would be. So they offer first off, I knew I was getting a stretch boxer brief. That's a given for me versus the cotton. But I thought I would like the 5-inch better, but I got a 5-inch and a 3-inch. And surprisingly, the 3-inch is really good. My worry was that it was going to bunch up too much and feel like, like briefs or whatever, but definitely not. It holds on your leg. That's my favorite part. The thing stays in place all day, but also is not long enough where you're aware of it sometimes, like you are with a 5-inch inseam boxer brief. So I love the stretch 3-inch boxer brief. Definitely gives you freedom of movement. If I decide to play basketball after work or something, they're perfect for that. So I love those ones. But yeah, if you want to check out some Skims for yourself, shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores, including their flagship store on Fifth Avenue. And let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. All right, Gavin, we're back in to keep buying and selling. And this time we're buying and selling PJ Tucker. The Knicks clearly bought for a 10-day contract at least, though it seems like they are maybe interested in a longer relationship than that. We'll see if PJ Tucker was jumped the gun a little in saying that he thought he'd be around past the 10 days. But as of right now, it seems like he'll probably be around the rest of the season. And obviously felt his impact a little bit in the first game against Sacramento. There was the shoot that MFer moment. There was the, just him clapping, whatever. Shout out to Tag on Twitter at IQ for 3, who put together a PJ Tucker cheering and leadership highlight tape today, which was brilliant. But so between PJ Tucker encouraging him and just how he shot, period, let's zero in on Josh Hart. Is Josh Hart on a trajectory to solve his 3-point issues the rest of the way out with a little shoot that MF energy in his ear from PJ Tucker and maybe a pair of limited edition Kobe's if he makes enough shots? We're talking about kid motivations. PJ just being there like, if you're good and you shoot lots of threes, Josh, I'll give you a pair of custom Kobe's. We'll figure out. Anyway, is that going to work to Josh's advantage and get him turned around the back half of the season?
No, I've just been burned too many times here. I feel like Josh Hart's 3-point shooting is the girlfriend that's cheated on you like 5 times, but now Pete, you found the best relationship therapist in the world, and his name is PJ Tucker. He's like, I'm going to solve this for you guys. But you know what? That's maybe not a relationship that should continue. So I after that convoluted analogy, and people at home asking who hurt you, Gavin, I am selling this one. I was claiming in preseason that he solved it right after the playoffs, where at least in the Phillies series, like he shot, what was he shoot, like 7-8 threes a game? Had that one game where he took like 16 of them. That's too much. Maybe he had a game where he took 12 and was making them. And against the Pacers, he wasn't hitting them, but at least he was mostly willing to shoot. And then he spent all off season working on it. In the first 2 months of the year, he's shooting like 38% from 3 on volume. And I always go back to the fact, like, you can go back to his rookie year. Like, he was shooting 37% from 3 on volume. For his career, he's around 35% on decent volume. Like, he is not a great shooter, but he's also not early career Josh Giddey out here, right? Like, the guy can make a 3. And yet I just don't buy that in the biggest moments, he's not running a calculation in his head that says, I can shoot this open 3, but me passing the ball to Jalen and letting him do whatever he's going to do with it is a better shot for our team. And maybe in a single possession scenario, that math checks out. Over the course of a game, over the course of a season, when it leads to teams like the Boston Celtics saying, hey, we are guarding you with geriatric Al Horford, and he's going to play 8 feet off you and disrespect the crap out of you all night so we can throw 3 different guys at Karl Anthony Towns. I still think teams guard him that way. And I don't know if he takes enough threes and makes enough threes for it to work. That being said, I genuinely believe PJ Tucker is going to be good for him because I think he's going to be screaming at him every night. I thought the shot looked soft. It looked easy. He was getting a great arc on it. And I do think this time without Jalen, where he's not running that math and he says, you know what, our offense is so limited in terms of optionality right now. It is actually a good shot for me to take an open three. I think we're going to see a good run for him here. I think I just question if it sustains into the playoffs.
Just to be a contrarian, I'm going to buy.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll buy. I'll buy into the power of PJ Tucker's motivation. I'll buy into him dangling a pair of Kobe's in front of Hart's face. You know, maybe it's trying to think what a mega desirable colorway is that he doesn't have yet. Man, I'm like just getting the Kobe, so I don't know the grails yet, but whatever. You know, he's dangling a pair of grails in front of his face, some player edition that he got at some point. Hopefully they're the same size. But yeah, I think that we're seeing a little bit of a mentality shift, and I wonder if maybe kind of just like last year. I mean, granted, Hart didn't exactly solve his 3-point shooting confidence issues during the regular season last year. It took him kind of till the playoffs, until that Sixers series, till he really kind of seemed to like find his stride. But I'm going to bank on I talked about it in the last episode where I'm like, I'm not thanking the basketball gods in any way for Jalen Brunson getting hurt, because that's the worst case scenario, no matter how you slice it. But I will buy into Hart possibly with the added responsibility that he's about to have, feeling the sort of pressure of having to fill in for Brunson and feeling like, oh, well, we need more offense from somewhere. And we kind of saw it in that last game where he was a little more comfortable just pulling up from three, because he's, I think, a little uninhibited by the idea of like, well, if I miss them, like someone's got to take these shots. So like, I may as well just do it. Whereas other times I think he lets the gears start turning a little too much and starts thinking like, oh, but should I kick it back to Brunson? Should I try to drive? Like, am I going to make this? Because we kind of need this possession, whatever. Like, I think that he just gets in his own head too much. So kind of similar to what I was saying in our last episode, where like last year we saw a Brunson injury, and with Randall already out and with OG already out, lead to like Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo kind of like taking a step forward in terms of what their role was with the team. And, I don't want to say developing skills, but like just kind of developing the mentality that took them into the playoffs and then allowed them to be such killers there. I wonder if maybe we're going to see the same thing out of Hart while Brunson is injured right now. I feel like we're seeing it a little bit out of Mikal. We're definitely seeing it out of OG, although he was kind of already starting to cook like this even with Brunson healthy. But, I think OG's getting more aggressive. We've seen it with Cat. There's no good way to slice your best player getting hurt, but the one benefit you can take out of it when you have an otherwise really talented team, other than your star players, that they kind of have their opportunity then to kind of step up and plant their flag in some way and play a bigger role throughout the rest of the year. So that's what I'm going to bank on. It's very not a numbers based approach, just kind of thinking what might be going on in Hart's head, what his mentality might be. I feel like we might see where he, embraces that a little more going throughout the rest of the year.
All right, let's do a little lightning round one here before we move on to segment number 3. Mitchell Robinson will start, and I needed to put this caveat in. The majority of games he's healthy in the playoffs for the New York Knicks. Alex, everyone made a big deal of that Tom Thibodeau quote when he was coming back, saying, well, we've been missing our starting center for 55 games, and yet Mitch has been back for, I don't know, has he played 5 games now? He missed the one. He has not started yet. He's only been playing about 15 minutes a game. Obviously, he's still, despite the ESPN report to the contrary, on some level of minutes restriction. Do you buy that Tom Thibodeau quote will hold true and that Mitchell Robinson is the long-term, or at least the long-term this season, planned 5th starter, or if that was just Tom Thibodeau saying something in the moment and Mitch will continue to play a pretty similar role to what he's currently playing?
Yeah, I'm going to sell, unfortunately. I'd love to buy as one of the longest Mitchell Robinson boosters out there. Like, I love Mitch. I would love to see him start again. And I can't believe that we haven't seen more of the 2 big lineup yet, but I don't know if it's imposed on him by the the training staff right now, or if Tibbs just wants to play Mitch just this amount, but it seems like he's pretty locked in on like 15 minutes or so. And that might be just their way of sort of warming him up and keeping him on bubble wrap to a certain degree until the playoffs. But I kind of doubt that Tibbs is going to then just turn around and be like, all right, new starting lineup going into the playoffs. Like, I don't think so. Now, granted, it would not be the first time. Shout out 20 to 21 playoffs when he decided to finally throw Derrick Rose in the starting lineup, after a long time. But that was 20 to 21 was a long time ago. I think Tibbs is going to probably try to lock in with this starting group that started the whole season and then keep bringing Mitch off the bench, hopefully for longer stints. And hopefully we get more practice time with him and Cat on the floor together, because I think that could be their sort of ace in the hole to bring out against a team like Cleveland, for example, in the playoffs, if they end up facing them, where that exercise could do them really good as long as they know how to play with one another. So I hope Tibbs plays that lineup more. I doubt they become the starting lineup though.
Yeah, I'm selling as well. I think you hit the key point. If let's just say Mitch is on a minutes restriction, I think if the intention long term was to start him and Cat, we would be seeing five of the 15 minutes he's playing at least with those two together. And no one forced Tom Thibodeau to mostly mothball Precious Achiuwa when the other two are healthy. Last night was the first time, I believe, since Mitch came back that we've seen all three of them play. So maybe he's pivoting a little bit on that. But in those 5 or so games, I think we've still only seen something like 2 minutes of them actually playing together. And if that's the long-term plan, I'd be shocked if you're not testing that out a little bit. And if it means you have to play Precious Achiuwa for 8-9 minutes, so be it. But I just cannot imagine they would not be seeing how that looks, especially now that Jalen Brunson's out, and it gives you a little bit more lineup optionality with other guys playing more minutes in different spots. So as much as I love Mitch, as much as that was one of my 3 bold preseason predictions, that I think the only one that's actually having a chance of hitting still, I have to sell it. I don't see it happening. Shout out to Mitch. I like how he's playing. I like how they're using him. I mentioned this last pod, but a little more dribble handoffs, picks off the ball. It's stuff I mentioned after Isaiah Hartenstein left. Like, that was sort of the only way you're going to be able to use him. And he would have some nominal spacing value, is having him set screens in the corner, having him do a lot of dribble handoffs. They are actually leaning into all of that. So I think that is really good. But right now, I don't see him starting a whole bunch of playoff games. Alex, we have one more buy or sell to go. It is about OG Anunoby. Is he back? Is this who we're getting the rest of the way? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big project, Wayfair is everything you need in one place. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter your space or budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all, and at prices to fit your budget. Finding the perfect piece, guys, I spent this entire fall looking for the perfect rug to tie my living room together. I just moved cross country from New York to Phoenix. I could finally afford, shout out New York City housing prices, a bigger apartment. And I said, you know what? I'm going to invest in a nice rug for the first time in my life. And shout out to Wayfair. They had so many stylish options at great prices. They offer easy shopping and delivery. The site made it simple to compare styles, and my order arrived fast with free delivery. And it's more than just furniture. I was surprised to find everything from storage solutions to patio decor, making it my go-to for all things home. So head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. It's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, what's up, guys? We are back here on Locked On Knicks. All right, fourth and final buy or sell. Alex, this is the OG Anunoby we get the rest of the season. And for people who don't know what I mean by that, the last 5 games, averaging 21 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, just under 4 assists a game, with great defense, shooting 45%, 39% from 3, 74% from the line. Has he finally gotten out of the funk? Do we get something like this the rest of the way?
I think that's the key. Something like this, I'd buy. This exact player, sell. I don't know if I'm quite ready to put my faith there yet. I mean, it's just unfortunately, we've seen a little bit of peaks and valleys with OG. You know what I mean? And it happens to all players, and it certainly hasn't been as pronounced as, like, say, who we talked about in the first segment, Mikal Bridges. I think that no matter what with OG, for the most part this season, even if the offense hasn't been there, you've still been getting at least like the compete level on defense for the most part, even if the like crazy stock numbers aren't always there. But I mean, what we're seeing lately is insanity as far as just the compete level and the results on defense. He's back to where he was like earlier in the season now, where it feels like every single game he's totaling like 3 to 5 stocks per game. It's just straight up picking guys' pockets. Like, I mean, in the Kings game, it seemed like no fewer than 2 or 3 times he just straight up like walked up someone in like NBA 2K style, just hit the X button and just got a hand in there and then just went on a fast break by himself. Seems like that's becoming more and more of an occurrence. He seems very locked in. I'm really happy to see it, to be honest, because I'm not gonna lie, I was worried that foot sprain was going to bother him for much of the rest of the year. It just seemed like it was going to be one of those pesky injuries that doesn't quite, go away. Based off what I've heard about like foot injuries and like Liz Frank tendon injuries and stuff like that. It just seemed like it was going to be a little bit of a nagging issue, but he seems totally over it. So he seems spry. He seems locked in. That's just got to continue. And, I guess the saving grace here would be the team was just going through its most hardship that it has this season. Like the 3 straight losses, like losing Brunson, like you don't want to go through any of that. And he still was keeping his head up and keeping his head above water and didn't let any of that get to him. If he's willing to take on that sort of leadership on the court sort of role the rest of the season, like that's awesome. And I hope that he's ready for it, because I think the Knicks can really benefit from that, because he sets, more than anyone, he sets like the tone on defense of how everybody else goes, I feel like, because when he puts 100% out there, he's generating offense for your team. He's generating steals that directly turn into fast break opportunities that usually turn into a quick dunk or whatever, because whether it's him or someone else, he just gets such a point of attack steal so many times that he starts like a nice little break right from that. That's basically runs completely unopposed. And, he makes momentum shifting plays. So I hope he's ready to kind of step into that role, particularly with Brunson out right now, of being kind of like that on-court leader, even if we know he's not going to be a super vocal leader. We've already got the fluff pieces coming out, and not that they're not earned, but like, talk about him being a Mets fan and all that stuff, from that was James Edwards that wrote that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Just talking about OG and how he's funny and respected by everybody and whatever. I'm glad we're seeing it on the court and everything. And I think that translates into his play. I think he's very much a guy that's like how he's feeling directly goes towards how he's playing on the court. And it seems like he's having a lot of fun right now. So hopefully that holds up.
Yeah, I would say that that's very much true for both him and Mikal Bridges. I'm gonna buy the defense, sell the offense. To your point, defensively, he has unlocked his peak form, which I would say is an intimidator, right? Where he gets in the heads of some of the best scorers in the league. Like, you go back to the Heat game, that was just unholy, right? And he was just spooking Tyler Hero. Like, Tyler Hero was peeing down his leg. He didn't want anything to do with OG Anunoby. We saw a slightly lesser version of that last night against Sacramento, where DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, it was the old Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, right? Like they didn't want that smoke. They were pump faking. Like, he was poking the ball away. Like he is an intimidating presence when he's at his best. And I think it is a self-perpetuating cycle where he feeds off his own success. And then he's like, you know what? I kind of enjoy torturing people on the defensive end of the floor. And that's his sixth sense of humor playing itself out, like in basketball terms. And that's fantastic. The offense, I think we will get somewhere between what he was the first 19 games of the year, what he's been the last 5 games, where he was great against Miami. He was transcendent against Golden State. He was good against LA. He was bad against the Clippers. He was insane again against the Kings. Something between those 2 stretches and like the middle 40 games or so where he really inexplicably struggled. I think we've learned at this point that he's just never going to be like an incredibly consistent 3-point shooter. Like he just has weird, inexplicable issues for someone who's incredibly strong and should have such a strong base, like weird power transfer issues where he goes through long stretches where he's just shooting the ball short and he's like kind of short circuiting his form. And whatever the biomechanical basis for that is, I don't expect it to go away overnight. So that's where a little bit of my lack of confidence comes from. The assists, I think I don't 8 was a career high for a reason. Like, I don't know if we can constantly expect that. I do think the more he has the ball in his hand, like any player in the NBA, the better rhythm he's going to get. The question is, does that sustain when Jalen Brunson's back? And I think the truth will be somewhere in the middle. So I buy the defense. I sell the offense only a little bit. Maybe we get some facsimile of that. But Alex, this has been buy or sell. Super fun game. Hopefully we get to do it again sometime soon. We appreciate all of you listening. Alex will be back with you tomorrow for the recap of the Trailblazers game. We'll have one more episode together the rest of the week, and then we'll get the Golden State recap over the weekend. Until then, be good. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.